Good afternoon, a guten Mayed, good Yom Tif. Today we are still celebrating Pesach, and I hope everybody's enjoying their time, although this Pesach is a little bit different than previous years, but still we have the opportunity to celebrate the Festival of Freedom. Something that's very interesting that always comes up when I speak about the Seders with different members of our community is how on Passover, at the Pesach Seder, when the whole family comes back together again to celebrate Pesach, not this year because we're in quarantine, but in a normal year, somehow, no matter how successful we are, or how well educated we are, or how accomplished we are, when the whole family gets together, everybody reverts back to the roles that were expected from them last year and 10 years ago and 20 years ago. No matter where we are in life, when we get back into the family setting, everybody goes back to that place that's expected of them in their family. You have Uncle Marty, who's the jokester. You have Uncle Jack, who gets under everyone's skin. You have Aunt Louise, who's the drama queen. Everyone has their place. You have Cousin Jesse, who really didn't want to be at the Seder this year, and the only reason he's there is because his mother guilted him into it and said she's not paying for his college tuition if he doesn't come to the Seder. So everyone has their place, and no matter how many years pass, or how successful we are, or how much we've advanced in our lives, when we get back together at that Passover Seder, everybody reverts back into their typical familial roles. Well, the family dynamics comes into full play in the Haggadah. In the Passover Haggadah, it talks about the four sons. The wise son, the wicked son, the simple son, and the son who doesn't even know how to ask. And why are we still talking about the Seder? The Seder happened last week, and we're not going to have it again for another year. Why talk about a Seder when we're past that part of Passover? Because it says in the Torah, B'chol dor v'dor, in every generation, every single moment of our lives, every single day, we have to re-experience the Exodus. Meaning the Exodus wasn't something that happened thousands of years ago, and we just commemorate it each year by celebrating Passover. But actually, each and every year, and every single day of our lives, each of us have to celebrate the Exodus. Because each of us have our Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means Egypt, but it also means limitations. And each of us have our limitations. Each of us have our Egypt inside of us, surrounding us, very deep down. So the story of the Exodus, with all of its details, is still relevant today, as relevant as it was 3,000 years ago. And when we dissect the story and the miracles and the way it happened and how it happened, going through the Haggadah, we can actually learn how to escape our personal limitations, our personal Egypts, those boundaries that inhibit us and block us from growing and being the person that we really want to be. So that's why it's never too late. It's never too far gone to keep on discussing the Passover Seder. It's something that's always relevant. The Haggadah is something that we should read and learn and relearn, and perhaps the most commented on book in the Torah, because everybody wants to share their insights in order to help us, all of us, escape our Egypts. So let's talk about the family dynamics a little bit. We talk about the wise son and the wicked son, the simple son, and the son who doesn't know how to ask. It's interesting because the way it's worded says, Echad Chacham, there's one wise son. Echad Rasha, there's one wicked son. Echad Tam, one simple son. Echad She'eino Yodea Lishal, and there's one son who doesn't know how to ask. And it seems very repetitive. It could just say there are four sons, the wise son, the wicked son, and so on and so forth. Why does it have to say one, 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 one? What is that teaching us? And not only that, the Rasha, the wicked son is right after the wise son. We should put the wicked son last. We should put the wise son, the simple son, the son who doesn't know how to ask, and the wicked son, the one who doesn't even want to be at the Seder in the first place. Let's put him at the end of this lineup of the four sons when we're talking about this family dynamic that's going on. And not only that, if you read in the text of the Haggadah, it will tell you that what do you answer the wicked son? A bunch of different things. And one of the things you say to him, and if you were there, if you were in Egypt, you would have never been redeemed. If you were in Egypt, your you would have died together with the 4/5 of Jews who passed away during the plague of darkness. So why are you bashing him? He came to the Seder. He's here. Why is he in the Haggadah if he's so bad and if he would have had no part in the Exodus in the first place? And then you invited him to the Seder, and now you're telling him, by the way, if you were there, you wouldn't have been redeemed. So you shouldn't have invited him to come in the first place. Don't invite someone into your home and invite them into your Seder and then tell them, by the way, this has nothing to do with you. So these are all questions that we have. And not only that, there's another very interesting point that in the Haggadah, when it talks about the 4 sons, in Kabbalah, it discusses how each of the 4 cups that we drink on Passover correspond to each of the 4 sons. So the first cup of wine that we drink corresponds to the Chacham, the wise son. The second cup of wine that we drink corresponds to the Rasha, and so on and so forth. Most of the Haggadah we say over the second cup of wine. So here we are in Kabbalah discussing how each cup of wine corresponds to each of the sons. And where do we say most of the Haggadah over the second cup of wine, which corresponds to the wicked son? Why? So if you look into the commentaries on the Haggadah, for centuries, this wicked son was bashed as an evil person, as someone who we shouldn't emulate. Stay far away from this attitude, from his horrendous behavior. That's how he was portrayed throughout centuries by the commentaries of the Haggadah. And then the Lubavitcher Rebbe comes with a fascinating paradigm shift about the wicked son. And not only do we change the way we view the wicked son, it actually changes the way we view on how to deal with wickedness that we perceive in others, and even the wickedness in ourselves. By understanding what's going on in this Haggadah with the wicked son, we'll figure out how to deal with wickedness in general, the wickedness that's inside of each of us, and the wickedness that surrounds us. And the Rebbe says, look at the text. Those extra words, Echad Chacham, Echad Rasha, one wise man, what's it teaching you? It's teaching you that you have to look at every Jew, and the packaging may be different. One person looks wise, one person looks evil, one person looks simple, one person looks holy, one person looks like a smarty pants, one person looks secure, self-confident, insecure. Everybody looks different. The packaging is different. But you know what each Jew has? The one, that core essence, the essence of God that exists in every single Jew, regardless of the packaging. And that's why the Haggadah goes so far to say before each son, Echad Chacham. The Chacham has that one essence of God. Echad Rasha, the wicked son, has that essence of God inside of him. You may have to dig deeper to see it, but it's still there. That essence, that oneness, that purity is in every single Jew, no matter what the packaging looks like. We're all Yisrael. We're all the Bnei Yisrael. We're all the children of Israel. You know what Yisrael means? Why did Jacob's name change to Yisrael? Because he struggled with man and with the angel of God, and he won. And now we're all the children of Israel, which means we all struggle. It's in our name. It's in our essence. Some days we wake up and we feel like the wise son. We're full of faith. We're full of conviction. We're full of motivation. Some days we wake up and we feel like the wicked son. We're not interested in anything. Our belief is on the rocks. Some days we wake up, we feel simple. We don't even know what we believe. But every single day, what we have inside of us is that echad, is that one, is that essence of God that's truly who we are. And that's why the Rebbe says, don't shun this wicked person. Invite him to the Seder. And who should you sit him next to? Sit him right next to the Chacham. Sit him right next to the wise man. Don't shun the child who's misbehaving. Don't shun that person who looks evil to you. Don't shun the evil in yourself. Sit him right next to the wise son. Put him right after the wise son, because the wise son has the capacity to influence him. The simple son, the son that doesn't know how to ask, they need help on their own. This evil son, the son who's not interested in being at the Seder in the first place, give him the most prestigious spot at the table, because that's where he's going to be influenced. Love him, care about him, show him that he matters. And that's how we're going to get him to change. The Chacham could reach down, the Chacham could hit that essential core of who he is, who we are. So when we're feeling at our lowest point, when we're feeling like we're not the Chacham, surround yourself with people that inspire you. Surround yourself. The Torah is telling us that eternal lesson. Sometimes you're like, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the Chacham mode. I'm not in the wise son mode. I'm in the Rasha mode. I'm in the wicked son mode. I don't feel faith. And you know what you do right then? Surround yourself by faith. Surround yourself by positivity. Surround yourself by spirituality. So was that Chacham, was the four sons that it's talked about in Haggadah a one-time thing? No, it's teaching us how to deal with the evil that we see in others and even the evil that we see in ourselves. Those moments that we're feeling like the second son, like we're not interested in the Seder or the Torah class or the mitzvah. But it's not an easy task to influence the Rasha. It's not an easy task to influence that wicked son. And that's why we say most of the Haggadah over the second cup, which Kabbalah tells us corresponds to the second son, because you need to give him a lot of attention. You need to invest a lot of energy into it. The parts of you that are wise, the parts of us that feel connected, we don't need to put so much focus on that, because that's a place where we're good. But those parts of us that are weak, the weaker links in ourselves, in others, invest time and energy into it. Say the whole Haggadah over that second cup, which corresponds, according to Kabbalah, to the evil son, to that wicked son. Because that's how you're going to help him change and grow. And not only help him change and grow, help us change and grow. Invest time in those places, in those areas that we need the most help in. Focus on it. Learn about it. Try to change it. Don't say, okay, that's just the way I am. I have this negative character trait. I have this negative behavior. I will never change. It's just the way I was born. No, say the whole bulk of the Haggadah over that second cup. Spend so much time and energy and fake it until you make it. And guess what? The Rasha, that evil part, has the one preceding it, which means we know that there is that essence of God inside of it. And we don't have to think that it can never change, because anything that's connected to God has the capacity to be perfect. When you're feeling the least inspired, that's when you should do the most. Learn the most. Give it everything you have. There's hope. You're not lost. Because there's never such a thing as a Jew that's disconnected. We're always connected. You always have the one, the essence of God inside of you. And although sometimes it's easier for us, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to dig so deep to find that essence of who we are, to find that good in ourselves and in others. But it's there. The Haggadah tells us it's there. Whether the wicked son or the wise son, that one is there just the same. There's no place to say that a Jew is eternally disconnected. There's a beautiful story of the Rebbe where there was this businessman who always used to come to the Rebbe and ask him for a blessing before he went on his travels for business. And one time, it was shortly before Passover, and he comes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe tells him to take a box of matzah with him on his journey and give it to a Jew in this particular town that he's going to stop in. The man was a bit surprised because he had no intention of stopping in this particular place, but the Rebbe said he should take a box of matzah, and so he does. He's flying over the Atlantic, and lo and behold, the captain says, we have to make an emergency landing. There's an issue with the plane. And where are they landing? In the city that the Rebbe told him to give a Jew matzah. He's shocked. He's surprised, but he knows he has a mission. When they land, the captain said it's going to take us several hours to fix this issue. Everybody's free to get off the flight, and make sure you're back here by 5 o'clock. He gets off the flight. It's a small city. He starts searching, asking people all over in the main part of town, does anyone know if there's any Jews who live there? And there are none. Nobody knows any Jews who live in this particular town. searching. He knows there has to be a Jew. I mean, what are the chances that he would land in this city? Obviously, if the Rebbe told him to take a box of matzah for a Jew in a city that he didn't plan on landing in, there must be a Jew in this city. So he continues his search. And finally, someone says, we think there is a Jew who works at the gas station at the end of town. And so he immediately goes there. And the gas station attendant, he says to him, are you Jewish? And the guy faints. When he wakes up, it takes him a few minutes to catch his breath and get to himself. And finally, he tells him the following story. Many years ago, I married a non-Jewish woman. And I moved to this town. There's no other Jews here. And every week, every Sunday, my wife and my children go to church. And I don't join them because although I don't practice anything, I still feel a little bit faithful to my Judaism. But for years, the priest has been nagging me and telling me, your God forgot about you. It's time that you leave your religion. It's time that you stop with this. You have to come with your family to church. You have to convert. You join who they are. Your God, clearly you have nothing to do with him anymore. And after years of being persuaded by the priest, he made a condition with God. He said, God, look, the truth is I have nothing to do with Judaism. I have nothing to do with you. But I still feel a little bad. So I'm going to give you 30 days. Send me a sign. If in 30 days you send me a sign that I know that you still care about me, that I know that you're still looking out for me, then I'm not going to go forward. But if in 30 days I don't hear from you, I'm just going to go and do what the priest wants me to do and convert. He looks at this businessman with the box of matzah and he tells him, today is the 30th day. I don't know who sent you here, but know that you're a messenger of God. The Rebbe saw this one Jew. Maybe we shouldn't have cared so much about him. He had nothing to do with his Judaism. But the Rebbe looked past the packaging. He looked past the exterior. He looked past the insecurities and the flaws, and he saw the diamond. He saw the one. He saw the essence of God that exists within every single Jew. And he said, no Jew could be left behind. Every Jew has to be reached. Whether he's practicing the way an observant Jew practices or whether he's on the cusp of conversion, we have to reach out to this Jew. And that's what he did. And he saved him. So what should we say to this Russia? What do we say to this evil son to try to convince him to be a part of it? We say to him, either the wicked son that's inside of us or the wicked son that's outside of us that we know. We say to him, if you were there, if you were in Egypt, you wouldn't have been redeemed. And guess what? The Rebbe says, you're not trying to put him down. You're telling him something amazing about himself. You're telling him, if you were in Egypt, you're right. All would be lost. If you were disconnected, you wouldn't have left. You wouldn't have left with the Jews who left. That was there. If you were there, you wouldn't have been redeemed. But 49 days after leaving Egypt, the Jewish people received the Torah. And then there's no turning back. Now, there's no way you can't be redeemed. Because once the Jewish people were chosen by God to receive the Torah, we will always have that essence of God inside of us. We'll always have that one. We could never, ever be disconnected. On the days that we feel wise, on the days that we feel evil, on the days that we don't even know how we feel. Once the Jewish people receive the Torah, we are completely and eternally united with that essence of who we are. It's a gift that's forever ours. And I want to conclude with another beautiful story of the Rebbe. There was once this man who felt that he wanted to commit a very grave sin, and he thought that once he would do this particular sin, it would completely disconnect him from Judaism. So he was considering back and forth. He went to many rabbis, he spoke to them about what he wanted to do, and they told him that if he's going to do this particular act, he's going to burn in hell, he's going to disconnect from Judaism. They really tried to stir him up, but the more they told him that, the more it strengthened his resolve that he really just wants to do it. And one day he said, you know what, I'm going ahead with my decision. But before I do that, I know it's disconnecting me from Judaism, so I kind of want to just say goodbye to God. So he looked on the map and tried to find the closest synagogue so he can walk into the synagogue and just say farewell to the religion that he was born into. He walks into the synagogue, he walks straight up to the ark, he opens it up, and he's standing there in front of the Torah scrolls for what he thinks will be the last time. And then the rabbi of the synagogue walks in. And it happens to be a Chabad synagogue. And the rabbi says to him, "What are you doing? Like, who just walks into the synagogue and opens up the ark?" And he tells him his story, and he says, "But don't try to convince me. Don't try to convince me of changing my mind, because I'm dead set on what I'm doing, and many rabbis tried convincing me out of this, and I'm not gonna falter in my decision." So the rabbi said, "I'm not gonna try to convince you, but I do think you should go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and just share with him your issue." But there was no way that he was going to get an audience, a private meeting with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So this rabbi told him every single day the Rebbe walks home from 770, which was the Rebbe's synagogue, to his home. And this is the route that he takes. Wait on the corner. And when he walks by you, share with him your story. And he decides, okay, what does it hurt? And he went that very same day. He waits on that corner. The Rebbe had a very exact schedule. And he waits there for when the Rebbe's going to walk by. And whenever the Rebbe would walk home from 770, there would be many yeshiva boys who would follow just a little bit behind as the Rebbe would walk home. And the yeshiva boys witnessed something strange. This man approaches the Rebbe, and they see him talking to the Rebbe and sharing with him something. And then the Rebbe answers, and the Rebbe goes like this. And then the man continues to talk. And he continues to share whatever he's sharing. And the Rebbe responds, and then the Rebbe goes like this. I hope you can see my hand motions. They finish the conversation. The man sits down on the floor and starts to cry. The Rebbe continues walking. The yeshiva boys approach the man, and they say, "Please tell us what the Rebbe said. What just happened?" And when he calmed down, he shared with them the following. He said, "When I approached the Rebbe, I said to him, where is this God that cares so much if I do this sin? There's so many bigger things in the world to worry about. Where is this God that really cares if I'm going to do this particular thing?" And the Rebbe said to him, "You want to know where this God is? He's in the whole wide world." And he said, "That's it." So the man responds to the Rebbe, "That's exactly my point. He has a whole wide world to be worried about. Why do you think he cares about my particular actions?" And the Rebbe said to him, "You want to know where he really is? You want to know why he really cares about your particular actions? Because he's right here. He's right inside of you. God gifted you with a piece of him. So you take God wherever you go, and you think your action is so small, but God knows that he's there right with you, and he cares, and it matters. And while this is such a tremendous responsibility, knowing that we're carrying around a piece of God, it's also a tremendous gift about our infinite opportunities, about our infinite potentials, about our infinite capabilities. So when we read the Haggadah, and we read about the Chacham, the wise son, and the wicked son, and the simple son, and the son who doesn't know how to ask, we have to remember that no matter where we're holding on each day of the week, because every day or even every hour we could feel differently, and no matter how we perceive others, because some days we see somebody and we see the evil, the wickedness, and some days we see them and we don't. But we have to look at people and look at ourselves the way the Rebbe did. Look for the one. Look for that piece of God. Look for the essence, and it's there. Since we got the Torah, it could never be taken away. It's an eternal gift that we received from God. So I hope that we could all learn and gain and be inspired by this and understand how much attention we have to give even to those who seem they don't deserve it. Try to use the Rebbe's paradigm shift on this wicked son that was bashed for generations, for centuries. And then all of a sudden we see it in a new light and we learn how to deal not only with others' wickedness, but even with our own. And that should really bring us to a state of peace and a state of harmony and a state of unity and joy. This particular class is dedicated to a complete and speedy recovery of my dear brother-in-law, Mordechai Yehuda Leib ben Rivka, and my grandmother, Rivka Bas Hinda, and my great-aunt, Rachel Bas Rasha, and anybody else who's suffering and needs healing in this particular time should just have healing, and we should see global miracles for the world speedily in our days.